up next, we have our speaker, Nama. And to introduce her, we have Danielle Rubin, who's going to be introducing her.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle. I'm another student here at Miami University that's involved in World Creativity and Innovation Day. And I'm very excited to be here tonight. Nama should be coming in soon, in about 4 minutes, but we do have a little introduction slide for her, right?
Right, yeah. Yes, so we are very excited to welcome her. She is coming from Clemson. You
should be here soon.
Okay, great. She's going to be talking about SDG number 4, quality education.
Yeah. Until then, if anybody has any comments from our last speaker, Pat, I thought it was really interesting, all the stories, as tragic as they were. Definitely an interesting topic for SDG health and wellness. It seems like a lot of people watched his movie and maybe read his books, so that's cool.
Yeah, I saw one comment come through about the international awareness of Alzheimer's and what the difference is between the awareness in the U.S. and other countries, and I'm very curious to see what that would be. Watching his movie.
Yeah, if anybody from around the world that isn't from the U.S. has anything to speak about the awareness of Alzheimer's in their area, type it in the chat. Oh, thank you, Wade. We got a shout out. And if you guys have any friends and family who are not able to hop into Zoom, we are streaming on Facebook. I know we mentioned that before, but for anybody who just hopped in, we are in the World Creativity Innovation Week/Day Facebook group, streaming live for the whole 20 hours. So always up for you guys to watch.
I wonder while we wait if we can bring Holly Haggerty into the call and see if I know that Holly is one who knew Pat, and I'm wondering if she can speak a little bit more on it. Let's see. Holly, if we bring you in here.
Hi there.
Hello, Holly.
How are you?
We're great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I was actually just on the other line with Pat. He was very excited, and as am I, to be able to share all of that information about caregiving with you, since you are so much younger than both of us. And I feel like even I'm in my 50s. I'll just be honest. So I'm in my 50s, and honestly, Pat has educated me so much. So anyway, I was just talking to him about how excited we are that you know about this now, Abby, and so you won't get hit with it in the face when you're older. So you'll be aware. Hopefully it won't be as serious as what he had to deal with. But anyway, I'm super excited about what you're up to.
Yeah. Well, it was very moving. His stories were very interesting. So I'm looking forward to watching his movie.
Yes.
And you know a few of our speakers coming up in the next 20 hours.
I do. We have Joran Jenkins, who practices collaborative law, and she will be speaking tomorrow. Let's see here. I suppose I could show myself. I just don't know. I didn't put on any makeup, so I wasn't prepared, but I will. I'll just be social because we're friends, right? So there we go. Wow. So tomorrow we have Joran Jenkins, who's a collaborative law attorney. She's written 7 books on the subject of that. I'm really excited about that because the whole thing with collaborative law is that it teaches people how to communicate. And I've always thought, and especially relative to the sustainability goals, and because we have one of the goals is a government that works for all the people. The thing about collaborative law is that it teaches people on 2 sides of an issue how to communicate with one another. So they learn how to express what their needs are as opposed to their positions. So it's something that we really need in government, to be quite honest. I feel like we're rather juvenile in Washington, D.C. and in governments around the world. And if we could work more collaboratively and use words that were, didn't generate such emotion like we do, and that we would do better. So what they're doing with family law right now is they're restructuring families rather than destroying them. There are couples that come out that are on better speaking terms than they were when they were married. There are couples actually that go through that process that decide to stay married, because while they're going through the collaborative divorce process, they learn how to talk to each other. And then they go, you know what, now that we know how to talk to each other, we're going to stay married. I mean, that's how powerful this process is. So it's used in family law. That's like a big place that it's used, but it's also used in estate law. And quite frankly, I've never heard of it being used in government, but I think it would be an amazing concept to use it in government. So anyways, I'm excited for her to speak.
We're looking forward to her. I think she's actually our last speaker of the day tomorrow. So you got your first and your last. So
well, there we go.
And now, Holly, we're going to send you back to the audience, and we're going to bring back Nama. She's here. So here we go. Thank you, Holly.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Nama, there you are. Hello.
Hi guys. Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Everyone, this is Nama Landau. She's from Crimson Global Academy, and she's my cousin, so that's just a fun little
Full disclosure.
Yeah. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you guys? How's the stream going?
We're great. We're very excited. We've got about 17 people here, and we're also streaming live on Facebook, so
amazing.
Going great. Tell me a little bit about Crimson.
Sure. So Crimson Global Academy actually sits under the main arm of the company called Crimson Education. So if we go back 8 years ago, and you can imagine this little 18-year-old, he's sitting in Auckland, New Zealand, and he decided he wanted to go to university in America, which was pretty outstanding at that point. And he applied to all of the top Ivy Leagues and the top universities in the UK. He got into all of them, and decided to go to Harvard. And after he got there, he had a lot of parents from New Zealand calling, right? How did you do this? How does my child do this? So he started tutoring, not just in consulting, but also with students academically. So if you fast forward to now, Crimson's worked with over 20,000 kids, and we have a 4 times higher admissions rate for many of these universities. But as we were working with these students to help them get into college, we noticed a lot of commonalities in their typical schooling. So the first one was connectivity. So very much, how good people's education was based on where they were located or financial situations. They don't always have access to the most amazing teachers either. And the second one was being able to accelerate. So most schools, they really cater to the middle of the bell curve, right? So the middle of the pack in terms of student capability, which means the top students and the bottom students often get left behind. So we started Crimson Global Academy, and we really wanted to emphasize connectivity and finding really engaged students and matching them with engaged teachers from around the world. We started last year, and we have 300 students from 25 countries and 50 top teachers from around the world. And it is a fully online high school.
Wow, that's super cool. When you say the schools usually cater to like the middle, and you said the top and the bottom usually get left out, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So if you think about, sitting in your typical classroom, depending on where you are, let's say you're in the States, maybe in LA, most of my high school classes in my public school had about 40 to 50 students in it, right? There's no way the teacher can teach to the specific level of each student. So they have to kind of take the middle ground of where the students are based academically and how, fast they go, or how much content they teach, or how in depth they go. And then they just kind of mass produce that information and they put it out there. So students who maybe are struggling with that information, unless they ask for help, are oftentimes left quite far behind. And the students who want to go faster don't really have an outlet to do that in either.
Got it. And CGA combats that by doing what?
Exactly. So we are fully online. We have small classes of no more than 12 students. Since we are a new school, right, it is very much self-selected, which means top students often come to us asking how they can work with us. So right now, a lot of the classes are very high end and high achieving students who just want to go faster. But the idea is in the long run, right, we'll have different levels of classes so that students can test into them and really go at their own pace.
So cool. What specifically do you do involving CGA?
Yeah, great question. So my role is to lead growth currently in our most prominent market, which is our home base of New Zealand.
Okay, cool. Which means what do you do?
Yeah, good question. So I guess on a day-to-day basis, I lead a team who help, find these students, recruit them, and then also integrate them into the school.
Awesome. So when it comes to SDG4, which for those of you who may not know, SDG4 is quality education. How do you think CGA compares to other education companies in that area?
Yeah, great question. So I'd say our top three differentiators here are connection, as I mentioned, engagement, and development, right? So because we're online, it means our students can work and be connected to top other students and teachers. So they're building a strong network from the very beginning. Engagement. So our level of engagement in our classrooms around discussion is probably unlike anything you've ever seen in any classrooms before. So our classes are built to discuss and debate and formulate opinions and really kind of go at it with each other. And then the cool thing is we can track this. So we use data and share that weekly with parents. So in a typical school, maybe you're having parent-teacher conferences 4 times a year, so quarterly, but we actually share our engagement data with each parent weekly. So they really understand, how each student is doing. We have some other really cool, maybe controversial things in the work around AI as well, but we'll keep those under wrap for now. And then the last part is development. So a school's success is only ever as good as the success of our students. So one part of this is academically, right? Making sure they're getting really strong grades. And then our last testing cycle, so we teach international IGCSE curriculum. All of our students got either an A or a B, and a third of them got a perfect score, which means, right, this teaching method is working. And then of course, holistically. So it's super important that our students leave set up for success in the future and in the real world. So we have really cool clubs like investment clubs. We have a game development club, and our students just put together a computer game that they then blasted out to all 2,500 people at Crimson. And they were just, having a blast trying to beat each other's high scores last week. But our students built that. And it's really impressive to see students from around the world coming together, sharing interests, and then acquiring real world skills as well.
That's awesome. So, okay, so question. Your
Yes,
classes are maximum of 12 students.
that's right.
And is it set up like a typical high school in the States where you go from like period to period with the same group? How is that kind of system of collaborating amongst the students?
Yeah, great question. So we actually run a 24-hour school because it's a global school, right? So you can imagine not only is it 24 hours, but we have multiple intakes. So you might start with us in January, you might start with us in September, you might start in May. So for our operations team, this is, a really fun and sometimes very stressful challenge. It's definitely not typical to what you'd experience in the States. We also teach the A-level curriculum, of which you technically only need to take 4 classes to graduate from high school, but you can take as many as you'd like. So, you might have 12 students who are in your same math class, and then you go to an English class, but half of those students aren't taking English. So you could take, a few sciences and a math class, and that's all you're learning for high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Completely different.
Yeah, definitely different from my high school experience. As far as SDG number 4 goes, you mentioned connectivity being one of the ways that you guys stand out. And one of the things that SDG 4 touches on is how a lot of students struggle with getting remote learning. Do you guys do anything in that realm?
Yeah, great question. So ideally what will end up happening, and again, we're just in our first year of operations with this school, is that we'd love to democratize education by partnering with governments to invest and fund in our school as opposed to your typical public school. So right now, public schools for a lot of students, right? They're maybe not as great as teachers as you would like, just based off of what the salaries availability are for teachers and, the less prestigious outlook that teachers have in America, especially. This isn't necessarily true in other countries where teaching is seen, as a very, very prominent job to have and is compensated that way as well. So ideally, in the long run, we'll get governments to subsidize Crimson, which will help obviously with the fees, but also by that point with online education as well.
Okay, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Being in your first year as a startup, startup branch of
Yeah,
Crimson,
exactly.
what would you say have been like any things that you think have been special? Because I know you've been with Crimson for a long time. So have you seen any like innovative shifts or creative problem solving as you start this new section?
Totally. So full transparency, we were planning on launching this online high school for a long time, and COVID happened to coincide with our launch date, right? But the original plan was to launch specifically in New Zealand to really, justify and prove our concept there, and then maybe in a few years roll it out globally. Because of COVID, bittersweet here, but we were able to launch globally right away. So we didn't have that initial test in New Zealand. We just went straight to global, which was not ever the plan, and really, I guess, fast forwarded all of our thinking and what we needed to achieve much faster, right? Instead of doing one time zone and one intake, we now had to do 24 hours and 3 intakes. So for our operations team, again, it's been crazy. But I do want to highlight one of my favorite student stories. Danielle, I know I told you not to ask me this, but I'll tell you anyway. So we have this student named Yuko in Japan, and she was a really, really high achiever. She went to one of the top schools in Japan, but she really felt like, she wasn't getting the most out of her school at all. So she joined Crimson Global Academy and is now being pushed academically. But also, one of my favorite things about her story is she started a feminist blog to empower females around the world and share stories. And because of Crimson Global Academy, she's now in 12 countries around the world and has contributors from all over. So, she had time to do this, she had a network to do it, and she's being pushed academically, so much so that she's actually one of our top students in the entire school now.
Oh, that's so cool.
I don't remember. There's another student who had a lot of extra time on her hand because she joined Crimson and she started to enter international flower arranging competitions. So she's won some prizes in that, and that was against real professional flower arrangers. So it's pretty cool to see what the students can do.
Oh, that's amazing. As we're wrapping up on our time here, if the audience has any questions about Crimson Global Academy or Nama, if you have any last words or anything that you'd like to say.
Sure. Can I link the
100% link.
Cool. Let me just pull it up because I was not well prepared for that. Maybe you have it faster than I do. But what I do want to say is that, education has been quite stagnant for the past few years. It hasn't necessarily changed at all. It's been really for the students who are, again, middle of the curve, but also for just a lot of rote memorization. So it hasn't really had a lot of technological advancements in how we now work, right? So people now aren't going and working on assembly lines for the most part. A lot of the work does change quite frequently. And so we really need our education system to change to match that as well. So making sure that we're making strides in that, just like the regular working environment is making strides, so that our students are well prepared overall, I think is going to make a huge difference around the world.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, Nama.
Thank you.
I loved hearing about Crimson Global Academy. And that wraps up, unless anybody has any last minute questions for Nama.
Awesome. Great job, cousin. I'm very proud of you. Thank you all for having me. We'll talk to you guys. Bye.
Awesome. So that was Nama from Crimson. And next up, we have Rajni from India. Abby, if you can pull that up.
Yes, and before we before we go to Rajni, we're going to play our one video from, this one is from Italy. So we're happy to share Unicorn Power from Penelope.
Ciao bambine e ciao bambini, oggi sono qui per parlarvi di una cosa molto importante e seria. In Mozambico le bambine non vanno a scuola. Vi rendete conto della situazione? È assurdo! Sia femmine che maschi hanno il diritto di andare a scuola, perché grazie alla scuola si impara cosa è giusto e ingiusto e perché grazie alla scuola si realizzano i propri sogni. Quindi, bambine e bambini del Mozambico, dovete convincere i grandi che tutti, sia femmine che maschi, hanno il diritto all'istruzione. Ma non pensate di essere da soli in questa sfida, perché di fianco a voi ci saranno i bambini e le bambine di tutto il mondo. Unicorn Power!
That's wonderful.
Yes, we love the kiddos. It's great to get the kids involved while they're young. Oh. Sorry.
For next video.
Yes, it's great to get the kids involved when they're young so that they can realize what the Sustainable Development Goals are. I think I didn't learn until college what these were. So it's really, really cool to see students who are just, 10 years old, 12 years old, looking at this and realizing how big these problems really are and trying to tackle them now.